That's good evening to Paul Dalligan as we delve once again into the NRL, Paul. Eastern Suburbs, as they used to be known, or the Sydney Roosters making headlines all over the place. Trent Robinson, did you see his press conference?
I saw that, one of the angrier press conferences from him. He's normally quite a reserved man, multilingual, French speaker, but he certainly let loose in English, and not impressed at all with the Newcastle Knights and the bungled, it's the word I'd use, transfer of Dominic Young, who went there as a superstar and somehow he's found himself in reserve grade. So the Knights put their hand up and said, we'll have him back. But they've said, we'd like him for free. But it's always not that simple, Professor.
Well, and the Roosters obtaining or getting by way of transfer Brandon Smith from the Melbourne Storm, there's another class player who played very well at the Storm, had his issues, of course, but here's another player will be lining up with your Rabbitohs as soon as he's fit.
Well, the reason is that the Rabbitohs and the Roosters struck a deal, but apparently the issue with Dom Young to the Knights is that whilst they didn't want to pay anything this year, they were going to take him off the Roosters' books for the next 2 years, and that will save them about $1 million. And you don't have to join the dots to realise that money's headed towards a man named Cherry Evans. So that's what the Knights are saying, that we're helping you out to the tune of $1 million, but we're not paying him for this year. So there's possibly a compromise to be reached, but we'll see what happens there. You don't want to be paying someone $500 a year to play in reserve grade.
So Brandon Smith will be joining the Rabbitohs immediately. Won't be fit to play until at least round 16. And I saw an interview with Wayne Bennett who said that he's not going to push him. He doesn't want him re-injuring the knee. He says he's coming back from a major injury. I'm not expecting much from him this year. It's all about next year as far as Wayne Bennett's concerned.
Well, it's typical Wayne Bennett playing things down. He is the type to not get carried away. He probably realises to put a lid on it. He's not the type to pump anyone up. It's the opposite, in fact. So if he does get something from him, it'll be a bonus, but he's keeping expectations down, which is probably quite wise. I honestly don't know what we'll get, but I do know he's a class player. His idol growing up was Isaac Luke, one of my favourite ever Rabbitohs players, who would tackle like the proverbial and go all day. So if he can be half the player that Isaac Luke was, he'll be a great addition to the, I'd have to say, overperforming Rabbitohs at the moment.
So do you think Dominic Young will get to the Knights, or have they bungled off that badly that he'll remain with the Roosters?
No, he will get there, because I don't know if there's much interest elsewhere, and you're not going to knock $1 million back. So there'll be a way it's worked out and structured, that deal. Peter Mulholland at the Knights is no fool. They'll work out a way to get him there, and the Roosters need to get in there to get that money for Cherry Evans, which sounds like it's a done deal.
All right, Paul, let's have a quick look at round 10 results. The Dolphins, they're up and down like a Swiss paper hanger. They defeated the Eels 20-16.
Can you just go back there? I do love a one-line, up and down like a what, sorry?
A Swiss paper hanger.
Never heard that in my life. I'm sorry.
Let's call it mixed metaphors, Paul.
Or a Tortelli kicked it with his foot was one of my favourites from Rex Mossop way back when. But yeah, so let's start again on the Swiss. What was the Swiss reference?
The Swiss paper hanger.
Never heard. No, you've lost me there. If I was a TV show, I'd be lost. But yeah, the Knights and the Eels to kick it off. Shocking loss last week, and this is why the giraffe guarantee, I might say, for special occasions from here. I can't force magic every week, otherwise I'd be in Vegas, Professor. But the Knights were up 20-0 at halftime at home, and you could write your own price for the Titans coming back to win, but somehow they did, and that sums up the craziness that is this season of rugby league, because that was one of the more astounding results of the year. I do think the Knights will hold on and win this week. They'll fight back at home in front of their crowd. Lomax is back for the Eels, which is a big in. He'll be pushing for New South Wales selection. Moses is playing well enough to be the number 6 for the New South Wales Blues. But I think the Knights will win at home after that very rude shock against the Titans.
Well, you wouldn't have bet on the Titans with bad money last week, Paul.
Oh, you wouldn't have put $1 on it. No, it's. I thought the Giraffe Guarantee. I was almost calling it home, but it shows you just how ridiculous this season can and has been.
Well, ridiculous it may be. The Broncos,
No.
they are more. They are becoming the warriors of the competition almost. This last week, the Rabbitohs, your Rabbitohs, Paul, took care of them, and really the Broncos didn't look in it.
And it was one of the matches of the year. There's rumblings that, and I knew this would happen. I think we talked about it, but Michael Maguire is one of the toughest physical taskmasters in the game. He absolutely trains the players to their limits, which is great, but that's going to lead to tired players. So on occasions, the Broncos are going to look absolutely buggered, to use Mel Meninga's words in politics. But they certainly did last week. But I've got to give credit where it's due to my boys, the Rabbitohs, and Latrell Mitchell with one of the finest performances of the year, and they're calling it the greatest field goal ever, Professor. Now that's quite a rap.
Yes, that was a terrific stroke of luck. Now, well, maybe it was a stroke of genius, not a stroke of luck, Paul.
Yeah, I know the way that was hit was as pure as you'll see, and you'd say to an AFL player kicking a goal from 50 out, but this thing, of course, bounces first, and there's several players rushing at him, and the way it was struck was just the cleanest strike you'll see. More than that, though, his entire game was phenomenal. He had one of the best try-saving tackles you'll see over a player that would have scored 99 times out of 100, if not more, in that position. So he's played his way into a number one jersey, and you said Queensland would be very nervous about Latrell Mitchell lining up at number one for the Blues, which he will do, I think, or perhaps in the centres and the wing, because you've got so much competition at the back there with Tedesco playing well and the incumbent Dylan Edwards. So they'll find a way to fit Latrell Mitchell in that side. There's no doubt at all.
Now, Paul, speaking of Latrell Mitchell, was there controversy surrounding that last try?
Oh, it was sneaky, but it was within the rules. I wasn't massive on it. I don't think we needed to do it, but it's in the rules. It's probably not far off a man cat in cricket. I didn't like it too much, but I mean it is.
Well, it was the surrender that almost wasn't.
Yeah, it was a bit cheeky, but he was in that sort of mood, and when he's in that sort of mood, if that leads to the sort of things he did, which were definitely in the spirit of the game and perhaps the highlight of the game, they were the highlight of the game. I'm happy for that sort of tomfoolery if it leads to his sort of form that he's in at the moment. It shows the mental state he's in, which is fantastic.
Wayne Bennett doesn't want Latrell Mitchell to play for New South Wales?
No, and I don't blame him because he's just back from injury concerns, as is Lomax. So there'll be several coaches not wanting their players picked, but we know how big Origin is for the game. Wayne Bennett, though, would concede that Mitchell on his day is possibly the best player in the game. So he needs to be there for New South Wales.
Will he be picked?
Oh, he will be picked somewhere in that lineup, as will Ryan Pappenhausen, who we'll get to. So I think New South Wales' odds of winning Origin are shortening. With dangerous words, but on paper, two of the most dangerous words in rugby league. But my word, that New South Wales team is looking scary.
Paul, the game of two halves. The Raiders took the first half 20-0. The Bulldogs took the second half 32-0.
Unbelievable, and it shows as well that that Raiders team is picked by several people to go close to winning the comp. So to do that in Canberra, I don't know what's going on or what happened at half time, but those Dogs, that second half, if they can somehow bottle that, that could be a grand final magic pot of ingredients right there. That was unbelievable football. Must have been, dare I suggest, Professor, there might have even been movement at the station. There would have been that much excitement. You watching that, it was very impressive.
I don't think I've seen Stephen Crichton play a better game.
And leadership as well. He's just phenomenal. Another one in the Blues team who will be giving Queensland nightmares. It's a star-studded New South Wales team, and we've only talked about the backs so far. There's 5 already that I've named who are playing out of their skin.
All right, the Warriors got up over the Dragons by one solitary point, but that's all you need to do.
That's all you need to do. It's like golf. You don't have to write down how you got there. They got the win, and they're up into second, I think, the Warriors, which is surprising me. It's good for the game across the ditch. and some would say it's excellent. But I think it's great for the Warriors, and they're playing great football. As you know, no offence to our regular listener, Kevin Yap, I don't rate the Dragons that highly, but we'll see what happens. But the Warriors, great win.
Couldn't split them. Cowboys and Panthers, 30 apiece. I thought the Panthers should have won and didn't.
Yeah, they should have. Cowboys, they're very unpredictable, and I think the Heat might have played a part in it up there in Townsville. Very impressive from the Cowboys, just to hold on for that draw. They're playing quite well, the Cowboys, as we've said, after I think I put the dreaded red line through them. They've picked up their form.
No game really for the Storm, 64-0. The West Tigers, that'd be one of their worst performances for years, wouldn't it? And they've had a lot of bad performances.
Yeah, it even led to Jerome Luai Sr. jumping onto Instagram, I think it was, and urging his son to activate his get-out clause, which is in his contract, which is quite concerning for Tigers fans. But Jerome called Dad and said, just stop the phone action, Senior, please. And I think he's got a media ban. So it's quite, I think it was just a moment of frustration. They were limp, they were pathetic, the West Tigers. Really embarrassing.
Could Craig Bellamy take anything out of that game?
No, well, you might have seen in the highlights, I liked Harry Grant doing this to Craig Bellamy. Harry Grant in the stands and asking for Bellamy to smile. And he, of course, got a spray for his efforts, Harry Grant. So,
of course.
Some men aren't meant to smile, unlike us, Professor.
Schooner was not happy. The Sea Eagles 14, the Sharks 30.
I did predict it, but not that that would be any comfort. I still stand by the Sharks are going to be up there at business end. But unfortunately for Schooner, they've lost 4 out of 5 since Cherry Evans hasn't told his teammates what he's doing. And that's the whole problem we've got, is that other players have done what they've done. Dylan Brown, for example, at the Eels, doesn't seem to have affected the team. The reason is, who would knock back that sort of money? Cherry Evans has not told his teammates why he doesn't want to be there, and that would hurt.
All right, let's look at this round, Paul. It kicks off Thursday night, not with the usual NRL Round 11 first match, but the second game in State of Origin, Blues against the Maroons. Who do you think will win that one?
I think the Maroons, if previous series goes, and then there'll be a decider, but we will see. Blues are very dominant in game one, though, in the Women's Origin, so we will see what happens there.
All right, the NRL kicks off Friday night, 6 o'clock, Knights versus Eels. I think you've already given us your thoughts about that one.
Yeah, I think the Knights will just hold on, but the Eels playing some good footy, but Knights at home will be angry, and I think they'll get it done. A big shout out to Fletcher Sharp. He's playing out of his skin. He's a Fletcher Hunt, sorry. So you got 2 Fletchers. You got a Fletcher Hunt on the wing, and Fletcher Sharp is playing out of his skin at 6. So he's really playing well. He could be a Blues bowler. So I'm very impressed with him, and I love to see local juniors do well.
Now, the nightcap on Friday night, one of our other correspondents, Mark Fierentry, would call this a mouth-watering tie, the Bulldogs playing the Roosters.
And would. Dogs are very short, though. The Eels are overachieving. They're playing very well. You've got to give them credit. You've got to feel for the Roosters halfback, Hugo Savala, who's come through the Roosters pathway system. We've talked about him. He's the world's tallest halfback at about 6'4", if you don't mind. How he'd feel with this chase for Cherry Evans. But that's football, I guess, whether he wants to stay learning under Cherry Evans for a couple of years or whether he'll take the big bucks on offer elsewhere. But the way your boys played, they've got to be strong favourites, and I think they'll win against the Roosters.
All right, the intermediate game on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Well, the first game, Dolphins against the Warriors.
Get a coin out and call it 2-up because honestly, it's a roll of the dice, this one.
Well,
I like the Warriors.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it, Paul?
I'll call it for the Warriors on recent form, I think. But the Dolphins, who knows? Who knows?
Well, you got second place playing 12th.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm leaning towards the Warriors. But who knows which of these two teams will turn up? It's Jekyll and Hyde in a jersey, both of them. So, yeah.
All right, the middle game on Saturday, the Sea Eagles travelling to North Queensland to play the Cowboys. Any joy for Schooner?
No, they're not a harmonious team, and the closest you'll get to any joy is cherry pie. a slice of that with a bit of cream on top, because Cherry Evans has split that team, and it's very sad. They were a good team playing well until that announcement. I really think, just for the sake of his teammates, Cherry Evans has to tell people what he's doing. I know there's a lot involved, but he's going to the Roosters, come out with it, let them know why, tell them that, I love you guys, but that just wasn't the right deal for me and my family. This is why I've done it. But to keep his teammates hanging, I think, is splitting that team, and they won't win many matches until that's resolved, and even thereafter they might not.
Well, it's a watch this space, I think, Paul.
It is, yeah. And anyway, but speaking of teams going the opposite direction, I think the Sharks will beat the Storm just down the road from where I grew up. I'm tipping it as an outsider. I'm not going to get out the guarantee one for you, Professor, but I think there's a boil over, and I think the Sharks are ready to do it. They would have had this game circled in the calendar for a while, and I would not be surprised. I'm actually tipping it that they'll beat the Storm.
And your thoughts on a final score?
22-16, the Sharks, and I'll be full house. They'll already be lining up there at Shark Park. Be a massive game, that one.
Okay, 3 games on Sunday, Paul. The first game at 2 p.m. The Broncos playing at home against the Dragons. Kevin Yap, will he get any joy?
No, I'm not giving out much joy tonight. No, it's a tough one. I think the Broncos should win that, but there's some real concerns there at the Broncos. It's one of their worst starts to the year, and I did tip them to win it all. So, yeah, not looking great in this crazy year.
Well, and you talked about Michael Maguire being a hard taskmaster. Some say that he's even harder than Tom Gleeson.
There you go. Very nicely done. Just put them through their paces. They did go on a harbour cruise, which has raised some eyebrows before the game. So people are saying it's not ideal preparation. Players are going to have fun. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's bonding. I don't see too much wrong with that. I also think the Titans, they won't pull off another miracle. The Raiders will bounce back at home. They're being tipped strongly for top 4. No one would begrudge Ricky Stewart if he could take that team deep into these finals. He's one of the true characters in rugby league.
You don't think Des will have another win?
No. I think the Titans, that was their miracle last week. So we're not going to get another one this week. No, the Raiders should be too good at home. Otherwise, you can turn the season up because it's just gone too nuts. All
right, the last game of the round, Paul. Should the Rabbitohs beware the wounded West Tigers after a 62-0 thrashing last week, or will the Rabbitohs prevail?
With Latrell in this form, you've got Humphreys back at half, who's playing great. I actually think the Rabbitohs will win this. It'll be a close game, but I'm looking at the teams, and I just think that the Rabbitohs have got enough to get this done.
All right, Paul. So no Big D guarantee this week?
No, not this week. But I just can't see one this week that's that I'm a bit skittish after last week. If you do want a guarantee, I guess.
No, you don't have to give me a guarantee.
No, you can't. I think that's the thing. If I start trying to cut a woman in half every week, there's going to be someone killed. I just don't have the dubs ready at the moment to set free. I'm not. I'd be in Vegas if I could do that every week, Professor. So no, I'll reserve that one till next week, I think, or till when one appeals to me. It's just a bit crazy, and I've got a bit gun shy, Professor.
All right, Paul. Well, what we should ask the viewers to do is if they enjoy this video, they should like it. There's a button down there to like. They also should subscribe to the Sportsfan radio channel because they'll get your pearls of wisdom in your NRL show every week. And also they can listen to the Gelding on a Saturday with his racing tips.
There you go. That's a full package there. The sort of thing Jack